Hi, my name is Ralph Galen. Welcome to 30 Minutes. This is our opportunity to go beyond the appearances of prejudices and empower ourselves with kindness and courage to deal with an ever-increasingly complex and challenging world. And we do that in large measure through folks like my guest today, Nilly DaCosta, who's from Bread and Roses, among other avenues, other venues. And let's get right to it. Nilly, you're with Bread and Roses. What is Bread and Roses?
Bread and Roses is primarily a soup kitchen, but we've been around for more than 35 years, and we've really become more than that. We're now more of a social service agency, so we also have an emergency food pantry. So if you have a referral from social worker, a doctor, case manager, we're able to provide you with enough food to get you through about 5 days based on your dietary needs. And in addition to that, we also provide baby products, diapers, clothing, and toiletries, and now we do case management. So I'm the new case manager.
What is case management?
So basically, people come to me and they say, I need help getting connected to Mass Health, getting into housing, getting benefits, getting into a rehab program, getting detox. So I just connect them with resources and then just do the follow-up to make sure that things are going accordingly, and then help them through the next step. So yeah, in addition to that, I'm also the person that does the outreach for the agency. So I go into different areas of the city, especially under the Casey Bridge, where there is a large encampment. But there are different locations throughout the city that I go to.
Would we be aware of them?
No,
easily?
They're kind of hidden in plain sight, you know. May just seem like, hey, look at that door leaning against that wall. It's not connected to anything, but really that's like somebody's roof for the night. So yeah, it's scattered throughout the city in the places that you wouldn't really expect.
So I'm sure when you go out, you tell people, and especially look for newcomers, to tell them about the Bread and Roses as a soup kitchen, which is every day except Friday and Sunday,
yeah.
and it opens at 4:30?
So we're in the building at 10. So you could call if you have your social worker or case manager call for a referral, or if we need to do referrals ourselves. But we serve the meal from 5 to 7. And also on Wednesdays, we do have a doctor that comes in, Dr. Waite from Greater Lawrence Family Health Center.
What time is he there?
He's there from 5 to 7 as well on Wednesdays. So you sign up at the door and you get to see a doctor.
Who does he see? What prerequisites are there to being
There's
seen
really
by
no
him?
prerequisites. Some people just don't have health care. For a lot of people, he's their primary care physician. And it's not just people off the streets. We're talking people that are elderly. We're talking children, you know. Anybody that needs help, he's always there for them.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
And there's sometimes a nurse there, I
Yep.
think, as well. Do you ever go out onto the street with the nurse?
No, I have gone out with Greater Lawrence Family Health Center's outreach workers from 100 Water Street.
100 Water Street. I think you're talking about Irving Atkins and Steve Kroll. And you've gone to some of these nooks and crannies in the city.
With them, yes.
And what do you bring there? What is the nature of your interaction?
So for them, they bring the Narcan and the bleach kits and things of that nature.
Let's back up to say what Narcan is.
Oh, Narcan is, it looks like an inhaler, but really it's what happens. It's what you use when somebody's overdosing on an opioid.
Well, it's like a syringe that goes in the nose.
Kind of, yeah. So you just
With a
shoot
a soft ending, no needle.
No, there's no needles to it. It's a liquid, and what it does is it moves the opioids off the receptor sites, so it could bring a person back. But within about 20 minutes, the opioids will go back to the receptor site, and you will overdose. But it buys you time to get the medical attention. So yeah.
Okay, and bring somebody to the hospital. And what treatment is there after that 20 minutes, by the way? So now you're able to drive them to the emergency room.
And then doctors will look after them, make sure their heart rate is at the right levels. make sure they're breathing. Because a lot of times when you see an overdose, one of the main indicators of an overdose is you gotta look at their breathing. Start to turn blue. You'll notice that they're not getting enough oxygen, having trouble even, standing. Sometimes you see people flat out just drop because of lack of oxygen to their brain. You gotta look out for the blue lips. That's always a good indicator.
Well, did it give more Narcan in the hospital?
Sometimes if
You
needed,
said the
yeah.
drugs come back.
Yeah. So it's somebody they'd have to monitor them, and I'm not sure of the process of what doctors do exactly. but
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, so that would be a successful intervention. You see somebody, their lips are turning blue, their breathing may be stopped.
Yeah.
Call 911. What if you
Call
call
911?
911? Are you implicated in the overdose?
No, you're not in trouble for anything like that. It's just they just want to have a contact person that's there, just to know, stay with the person. Are they breathing? Did they get color back? Should you do some chest compressions? Things like that.
So we went on a little tangent here. I didn't
Yeah.
think we'd be here, but in fact, a number of people that are homeless are using drugs.
Yeah, it's hard to talk about homelessness without talking about the opioid epidemic right now, and the other way around. They're
So
very strongly
addiction.
intertwined.
We see signs now. Addiction is not a crime; it's an affliction. Where do you make sense of this?
For me, a lot of people look at addicts and look at them as criminals. For me, it's just, no, that's somebody that needs help. They're mentally ill. They have a sickness right now. It's an addiction. And it's not like they want to be doing these things. It's their addiction has brought them to this point where they do these things. It's not something that they want to do. Nobody wants to go out there and turn tricks or steal things. It's just something that they do to feed the addiction. Before, like when they first used, there'd be a euphoric high. Now it's just, I just need to feel normal enough to get through, so.
There's some people that think it must be a choice to take a sharp needle and stick it in your arm in the beginning. So are there circumstances that you believe drive people to such desperate measures?
Yeah, so I notice a lot of people that do shoot up now. They originally started off with prescription pain pills, It's like I hurt my back roofing, so my doctor prescribed me this, and then they got addicted to that, and then they went to heroin because it was cheaper, more easily accessible for them, and then, keep spiraling, and then they come closer to the city because since there is a large amount of it here, it's more potent, and also the prices are lowered. So yeah.
More potent, we hear that it's cut with a drug called fentanyl, which is a very powerful drug, more so than heroin.
Yeah, so now it's not even cut with fentanyl, it is fentanyl. And now they're just cutting the fentanyl with things. So the majority of the users I interact with are on fentanyl, they're not on heroin.
What do you think of the needle exchange programs? And again, I speak cautiously about them because although they're legal in the United States and they're legal in Massachusetts and have been for a number of years, people would say, well, why are you giving these people clean needles? You're just enabling them. You're just prolonging their addiction.
Yeah, so people say that about, like, why do you give out bleach kits and condoms at the same time? It's a public health thing,
What are the bleach kits used for?
It's to clean your syringes. So in the bleach kit, we have a small vial of water and a small vial of bleach and a little kind of thimble that you could use to clean out your syringes. And what it does is it cuts down on the chances of infection, and it cuts down on the chances of disease transmission.
Notably AIDS and hepatitis
Yeah.
C.
So that's one thing that we're noticing is there is a rise in that because of people sharing needles. So by having the needle exchange, it really does, cut down a bit on how much transfer there is of these diseases. So yeah.
So it sounds to me like I have a friend who's involved in this, and on the back of his the harm reduction program is what it's called in London. It says something to the effect that no one ever graduated from a detox program when they were dead.
Yep.
So I think at a minimum, it sounds like you want to keep folks alive. You want to keep them from spreading AIDS and Hep C, which are very dangerous, so that the time may come, or when the time comes, they're able to go to treatment. What do you think about treatment programs?
There's not enough of them.
There's not enough of them. So what happens if somebody like in Gloucester gave up their drugs and their works and they put them in a treatment program? What likely would it be?
I mean, from what I remember hearing is they had a pretty good success rate with that for a while. I'm not sure how that has been lately. I would love it if we had something like that.
Can somebody go to the emergency room and just say, I'm a drug addict, I need to go into a detox program? And
there should be people there that can do referrals, but a lot of places, you know, it's just when they see, oh, you're transient and you don't have a place, just like you're just trying to get out. There's just so many preconceived notions of what, you know, a homeless person is that when they come in, just like they're already judging them.
Who is a homeless person?
All right, it depends on how you define homeless, because we got some people that are, you know, still indoors that are still homeless. They're just going from couch to couch. But if you don't have a mailing address, it's just you're homeless. You know, you don't have a place to keep your stuff. You're homeless. You know, and that's where it comes. Like, what comes first, getting a job or getting housing? So for some people, it's like, I want to apply for this job, but I don't have an address, you know? So it's like, all right, what are we going to do about that? Or it's like, I want to get into housing, but I don't have a job, and they need to see that I'm working. So it's like, what comes first? And it's not easy. A lot of times it's strange when somebody's homeless, and then you know they're homeless, but they have to come to me, and they're like, I need you to write me a letter of homelessness to prove that I'm homeless. I'm like, you know, so I have to type up saying something saying you're living in substandard human conditions, you know, and a lot of times these people that are on the streets, they're mentally ill or they have physical ailments and they need to be indoors.
I very often use an expression, you know this, there but for the grace of God go I. It sounds like you might feel the same way. Sounds like you're not being judgmental in a typical sense.
Yeah, no. I mean, they're still, I mean, they're like my friends. You know, I see them on the streets when I'm like grocery shopping. It's like, yo, what's going on? Stop and talk a bit, you know. They'll like to see them reading the paper and they just want to talk about it, process it. A lot of times it's just like you see them walking up and down Essex Street, you see them on Broadway, but how often do you stop to talk to them? You know, they're pretty cool when I get to talk to them. And you know, a lot of people that do try to help them, there's this power dynamic of I'm reaching down to help you. For me, it's like we're on the same playing field. Like, I'm eating in the soup kitchen too. It's not I'm doing this to romanticize. It's like I'm hungry and I work at the soup kitchen. I'm just going to eat with you.
Full disclosure, I eat at Bread and Roses. I highly recommend it. Cor Unum has a great success rate. They feed hundreds of folks out of St. Patrick's, and then we have the Lazarus House on
at the corner of the Good Shepherd Center, which is at the corner of Exchange and Park Street. So
there is a lot being done. Hector Brito, to just name one person who also had a tough time, is formerly incarcerated. He says that he'll go under the bridge regularly and offer support and friendship. I'm going to murder her name, so I'm not going to say the name, but I think it's Tracy Mitchell. But the book is called The Big Fix, and if you haven't read it, I urge you to read it, because this is a woman that spent I don't know, maybe close to 20 years. She sold her body. She wound up having to shoot in the bottom of her feet because there was no other place to inject. And it brings tears to my eyes to think about it. When she used to go to the needle exchange, to the harm reduction program, the thing that she cherished the most was the fact that somebody would look at her and not look at her as if she was a deadbeat, not look at her as if she is, you know, presently pretty stressed out, but looked at her as somebody to be loved. And they would give her a hug. They would genuinely say, you know, I love you. How you doing? You know, in sincerity. And I believe that this is the cornerstone to not only healthy drug recovery, but healthy communities. And I think that where we are right now in terms of our politics is that we're driven to be good neighbors, which means to be friends to each other. So I think of you as part of our whole national recovery, the things that you do.
Thanks.
You don't work alone. You're very welcome. You don't. Thank you. You don't work alone. You work with other people.
Yeah, this isn't a one-person job. You know, if it takes a village to raise a child, it takes a village to help that child when they're an adult.
You're working with, is it Miguel Cruz over
I
at
work
the
with Miguel
Lazarus
Cruz
House?
at the Good Shepherd.
Good Shepherd.
Work with Ken Campbell at Lazarus House's Pantry. Marie, she's a case manager over at Lazarus House. I work with Irving Atkins and Steve Crowell over at Greater Lawrence Family Health Center. I work with Linda Zimmerman. I could go on. I work with a lot of people because it's just, we have to share resources, we have to share knowledge, and we care about the same people. It's
Linda Zimmerman is
at Neighbors in Need.
Neighbors in Need. And all of these can be accessed on the internet. So why do you talk about these folks as your friends? What is it in your own upbringing? Was there a time that it really reached? Did you have any exemplars, models for this?
No.
How did you realize that for you this was the right thing to do?
I mean, when I was a kid, I grew up in the Bronx. There's a lot of homeless people in my area. And just walking around, you just get to know them, you see them, It's like, when you see like the typical thing on TV, it's like you wave at the mailman, you wave at like so-and-so at the bakery. It's like, I wave at Sudsy, who's that homeless guy that chills by McDonald's, And then, I see Jeff, who's standing outside of Rite Aid, and it's like, what's up, Jeff? And it's just like, so it's like, there's still people, they're still part of the community. You gotta understand, they're still part of the community. And for me, it's just, I've always been into food access, and then the more I look at food access, the more it would be like, what brought these people to this situation in the first place? And then, you just keep digging and digging, and then, you just look at the whole person, what their needs are.
The problem of homelessness, of course, since the times of Michael Harrington and Robert Coles, there have been, and before them, there have been studies of homelessness. It seems to have gotten worse. We need to get to the roots of homelessness, don't we? Rather than just giving out toilet paper and clean needles.
Yeah,
and
I mean, somebody could fall down a
food.
well and you could throw a sandwich down, but after a while, you got to get them out of the well. You know what I'm saying?
So how are you seeing the bigger picture?
So the bigger picture is we need like a wraparound kind of service. We need housing first. You know that model, housing first, everybody gets housing, and then after that you do the case management and the follow-up with them to get them to a healthy, self-sufficient place.
So I have a friend, Jim Bonner, who's has an MD, and he's working with healthcare for the homeless, and they insist that a safe place that you can go to, that you can lock the door, is the beginning of getting out of this vicious cycle of poverty and addiction. So here we are in Lawrence, where we may have a housing shortage, and where homelessness went up last year, and where it probably is going to go up this winter. We're going to see more folks.
Yeah.
Where do we get off of this cycle of despair and poverty?
Where do we start? So, I mean, it's something where everybody has to take an initiative. Whether you're a community member, whether you're a police officer, whether you're working for a social service agency, whether you're a city official.
How about the religious community, faith
and of
leaders?
course the religious community, because that's a lot of where I get my resources from. They may not be tapped into the homeless network itself, but if I put out that email saying I need flashlights, I'm gonna have flashlights. It's just like they're gonna come together and do that. Whatever. That's the thing about Lawrence and just the surrounding area. People don't hesitate to help. It's just about how do you go about helping. What's the best avenues? where are the places that you could help.
So certainly they can talk to you now.
Oh yeah,
and
definitely.
and you can disperse them to different different areas. I don't think there's anything wrong with people with giving food, first aid to people whatsoever. There's the argument that if we give food to people and we give clean needles to the addicts, that's just going to perpetuate the problems. They're going to become dependent, leeches on the system and just take.
No, you still got to give them things. They're still people, It's just like, can't deny them food. Luckily, the thing about Lawrence is we have so many different agencies that food access isn't a problem here.
Okay.
We have so many pantries and we have a good amount of soup kitchens. And there's always something open on the regular. But
what about people coming to Lawrence because we have all these services?
yeah, you'd be amazed at how many of the services that our social service agencies give that don't go to residents of Lawrence or people that are actually from here. A lot of the people that I work with that are addicts, they're from the wealthier towns in the state. But they come here because there's a support system for them. And I mean, they may have initially came here for the drugs, but they see, like, if you just take a walk down Essex Street, there's the New Beginnings Recovery Center. Then you make a left when you get to the end, and then, hey, there's Bread and Roses, and then there's a thrift shop. And then it's, they figure if there's a way out of this, I'm going to find it here. But the thing is, even though we have all these resources, we still have, the drug problem. So it's like, it's a constant battle for them every day. I know that it's not easy. Like, for them, they say the hardest part is waking up to this again, So it's not easy.
Mm-hmm. So immediately we need to keep folks alive. And if they happen to be in our community, whether they're whatever they are, grew up in another town, so on and so forth, they're here right now. And I wonder if Lawrence can ask beyond its borders too for help, since it's so easy to
I think that we have to
set up a tent and live here. Okay.
These aren't, our residents. They're coming from outside of the cities. I feel like these towns that they came from, they should also be doing something about it, because this is where it starts, Don't be fooled. There's opioids there too, in the nicest suburbs, in Andover, in North Andover.
But it's easy to stay in a nook and cranny in Lawrence than it is to stay in a suburban neighborhood.
Yeah, a lot of times they're disconnected from their families, or they've been kicked out because of their addictions, and because it's not easy working with an addict. They lie to themselves a lot, they lie to other people, but you got to look beneath that and see a person that's really in need.
Well, full disclosure, from my faith orientation, and it sounds like we may share this, I simply regard everybody as precious, and even though they may not be behaving as elegantly or generously as I wish them to, I feel that people should not be judged by their worst mistakes. And I'm going to put a plug in here for the Reverend Dr. Barber and Moral Revival, because I think he's pointing up, as other people have, as bell hooks and others, the intersectionality of these problems. And they also speak of these as not government issues so much as community and family issues. And again, full disclosure, I believe that these things need to be understood as if we're a family. And I'm of an age now that when people come up to me, they may be 40 and 50 years old, they could still be my kids, and my grandkids. And that's how I relate to them. They're just again, friends or somehow family members who are deserving of this. And I think this, we're close to the end of our time, but I think it's very important to encourage this. And you see it in children, and you see it in high school, idealistic high school students still, and somehow we lose that. We're afraid of becoming, soft and vulnerable. And I think it's the vulnerability of empathy and compassion that you have in such large measure, Nilly. That's our true strength. We're to the end of our time. So I'm going to say once again, it's my great pleasure to speak with you, man. And I hope that this is just the beginning. This is just the table of contents. We're going to be working together in the future with the Immigrant City Street Ministry, with the program for welcoming returned citizens, former prisoners, we're developing called Coming Home, with ways even of providing sanctuary for our those immigrants who are threatened now with deportation because of a lack of a comprehensive immigration policy. So this is the table of contents. I think we've laid it out pretty good here. Now, it may not convince people who feel that these people, it's their choice. We realize that circumstances really push us, and there but for the grace of God, you know, go we, my friend. Nilly DaCosta from Bread and Roses. It's located at 58 Newberry Street. You can get in touch with us for more information at 30minuteslawrence@gmail.com. My name is Ralph Galen. It's been a great pleasure to share today. And we invite you to this wonderful, wonderful family of struggle. Take care.
Bye.
Thank you, Nilly.
Thanks.
I've been out with Steve and been over there with Irving, and I want to get involved in some more recovery groups in the prison. I have a program that's Coming Home, and I've taught in the prisons or facilitated in the prisons.